Good day, this is Professor Will, CBMD, PhD. Today's Saturday, July 21st, 2018. It is 12:59 and 5 seconds p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Joint variation, jointly proportional. When we say z is jointly proportional to a set of variables, it means that z is directly proportional to each variable taken one at a time. Step discontinuity, jump discontinuity. A discontinuity for which the graph steps or jumps from one connected piece of the graph to another. Formally, it is discontinuity for which the limits from the left and right both exist, both are not equal to each other. Kite, a quadrilateral with two pairs of adjacent sides that are congruent. Note that the diagonals of the kite are perpendicular. Lateral rule, a technique used to evaluate limits of fractions that evaluate to the indeterminate expressions. This is done by finding the limit of derivatives of the numerator and denominator. Note, most limits involving other indeterminate expressions can be manipulated into fraction form so that lateral rules can be used. Lateral surface area, the surface area of the lateral surface of the solid. The lateral surface area does not include the area of the base. Lateral surface, lateral face, the face or surface of a solid on its sides. That is, any face or surface that is not a base. Latus rectum, the line segment through a focus of the conic section perpendicular to the major axis which has both endpoints on the curve. Note the length of the parabola's latus rectum is 4p, where p is the distance from the focus to the vertex. Law of cosines, an equation relating the cosines of an interior angle and the lengths of the sides of a triangle. Note, the Pythagorean theorem is a corollary of the law of cosines. Law of sines, the equation relating the sines of an interior angle of a triangle and the corresponding opposite sides. Least common multiple, LCM, the smallest positive integer into which two or more integers divide evenly. For example, 24 is the LCM of 8 and 12. Sometimes the LCM is written using brackets. 8 and 12 in brackets equals 24. Leading coefficient, the coefficient of polynomial leading term. For example, 5 is the leading coefficient of fx to the power 4 minus 6x to the power 3 plus 4x minus 12. Leading term, the term of a polynomial which contains the highest power of the variable. For example, 5x to the power 4 is the leading term of 5x to the power 4 minus 6x to the power 3 plus 4x minus 12. Least common denominator, the smallest whole number that can be used as a denominator. For two or more fractions, the least common denominator is the least common multiple of the original denominators. Ceiling function, least integer function, a step function of x which is the least integer greater than or equal to x. The ceiling function of x is usually written x in brackets. Least square regression line, least square line, least square fit, LSRL, the linear fit that matches the pattern of a set of paired data as closely as possible. But of all possible linear fits, the least square regression line is the one that has the smallest possible value for the sum of the squares of the residuals. Least square regression equation, an equation of particular form, linear, quadratic, exponential, etc., that fits a set of paired data as closely as possible. The equation must be chosen so that the sum of the squares of the residuals is made as small as possible. Least upper bound of a set of LUB, the smallest of the upper bounds of a set of numbers. For example, the least upper bound of the interval 5 to 7 in brackets is 7. The least upper bound is 5 to 7 in square brackets is also 7. Legs of an isosceles triangle, either of the two congruent sides of an isosceles triangle. Leg of a right triangle, arm of a right triangle. Either of the sides in a right triangle, opposite and acute angles. Leg of a trapsoid, either of the two sides which connect the bases of a trapsoid. Lemma, a helping theorem. A lemma is proven true just like a theorem, but it is not interesting or important enough to be a theorem. It is of interest only because it is a stepping stone toward the proof of a theorem. Lemmascape, a curve usually expressed in polar coordinates that resembles a figure 8. Like terms, terms which have the same variables and corresponding powers and or roots. Like terms can be combined using addition and subtraction. Terms that are not like cannot be combined using addition or subtraction. Limithon, a family of related curves usually expressed in polar coordinates. Limit, the value that a function or expression approaches as the domain variables approach a specific value. Limit comparison test, a convergence test often used when the terms of a series are rational functions. Essentially, the test determines whether a series is about as good as a good series or about as bad as a bad series. The good or bad series is often a p-series. Infinite limit, a limit that has an infinite result, either infinity or negative infinity, or a limit taken as the variable approaches infinity or negative infinity minus infinity. The limit can be one-sided. Limit test for divergence, a convergence test that uses the fact that the terms of convergent series must have a limit of 0. Line, the geometric figure formed by 2 points. A line is a straight path connecting 2 points and extending beyond the points in both directions. Line segment all points between two given points, including the given points themselves. Linear, like a line, a description of any graph or data that can be modeled by a linear polynomial. Linear combinations are sum of multiples of each variable in a set. For example, one possible linear combination of variables is x, y, and z in curly braces is 2x minus 3y plus z. Another possible linear combination is minus 5x plus 3z. Linear equation, an equation that can be written in the form of linear polynomial, equals linear polynomial, or linear polynomial equals constant. The following are examples of linear equations. 2x minus 3 equals 5, 4a plus 9 equals 8 minus 9a, and 2x plus 5y equals 1, period. Linear factorization, a factored form of a polynomial in which each factor is a linear polynomial. Linear fit regression, line, any line used to model the pattern in a set of paired data. Note the least square regression line is the most commonly used linear fit. Linear inequality, an inequality that can be written in the form of linear polynomial is greater than linear polynomial, or linear polynomial is greater than constant. The greater sign may be replaced with the less or less equal or greater than equal sign. Linear pair of angles, a pair of adjacent angles formed by intersecting lines. Linear polynomial, polynomial at degree 1. For example, the following are all linear polynomials: 3x plus 5, y minus 1/2, and a. Linear programming, an algorithm for solving problems asking for largest or smallest possible value of a linear polynomial. Any restrictions on the problem must be expressed as system of inequalities. In particular, all equations and or inequalities must be linear. Linear regression, the process of finding a linear fit. Linear system of equations, a system of equations in which each equation is linear. Local behavior, the appearance or properties of a function, graph, or geometric figure in the immediate neighborhood of a particular point. Usually this refers to an appearance or property that becomes more apparent as you zoom in on the point. For example, as you zoom in on the graph of y equals x squared at any point, the graph looks more and more like a line. Thus we say that y equals x squared is locally linear. We say this even though the graph is not actually a straight line. Relative maximum, relative max, local maximum, local max, the highest point in a particular section of a graph. Relative minimum, relative min, local minimum, local min, the lowest point in a particular section of a graph. Locus, a word for a set of points that forms a geometric figure or a graph. For example, a circle can be defined as the locus of points that are all the same distance from a given point. Logarithm, the logarithm base b of a number x is the power to which b must be raised in order to equal x. This is written log sub b x. For example, log sub 2, 8 equals 3, since 2 cubed equals 8. Logistic growth, a model for quantity that increases quickly at first, and then more slowly as the quantity approaches an upper limit. Polynomial long division, a method used to divide polynomials. Polynomial long division is essentially the same as long division for numbers. Lower bound of a set, any number that is less than or equal to all of the elements of a given set. For example, 5 is the lower bound of the interval 8, 9 in square bracket, so are 6, 7, and 8. First quartile, low quartile, lower quartile, Q1. For a set of data, a number for which 25% of the data is less than that number. The first quartile is the same as the median of the data which are less than the overall median, same as the 25 percentile.